With the Autodesk Architectural Engineering and Construction Collection, you get access to a wide variety of industry standard tools for both design, simulation, visualization across conceptual or technical detailed design. Whether you are designing a model from scratch or collaborating on one of your models or one of your wider project team's models, there is, generally speaking, a tool within the collection to do what it is that you want to be able to do. Recently, Autodesk and Epic Games announced a partnership whereby every user of a Revit subscription, whether that's a direct subscription of Revit or via an architectural engineering or construction collection, would receive access to a product called Twinmotion. Twinmotion from Epic Games is not an Autodesk application as such, but it's widely used for high-end visualization, and may I say, easy high-end visualization with Autodesk Revit for construction projects. If you log into your Autodesk account or your account administrator's Autodesk account and head over to all products and services, you'll have a search bar at the top of your screen. And using that search bar, you'll be able to go ahead and search for Revit. Now, I've got lots of products on my account because I've got access to a lot of not for resale products. But for the purpose of this, if I just do a search for Revit, you will notice that one of the results that we have down here is Twinmotion for Revit. If you hit Access, that will take you through to a specific web page which is targeted directly at users of Autodesk Revit. And if you scroll down, it will give you access to the installers for Twinmotion, either 2022 or 2023. And it depends on which version of Revit that you're using will depend on which download that you want to use. I'm using Revit 24 for the purpose of this, so I went ahead and downloaded and installed this top 2023.1.2. It's worth checking your system requirements and making sure that your system meets the specification requirements for Twinmotion. It does pretty high-end visuals, and it can be quite intensive on your graphics card and processor. So you want to make sure, generally speaking, that you're running an up-to-date graphics driver at least, so you're able to run that to its most visually impressive. And what we're going to do in this short video as part of this Autodesk Engineering Construction Cloud Collection series is just to show you how we can get started with this piece of software. And to do that, we're literally going to jump in and just put together a few bits of information down inside a brand new project rather than starting with a sample file or something like that. We're going to start with something very simple so that you can see how easy this is from scratch, but you can also identify how could you do this in one of your models if it's a new project or a new design. So all we're going to do inside of Revit to get started with this is we're going to throw together a really simple building. So we're going to start with a basic wall, just a brick block wall, and I'm just going to eyeball this, make it up a little bit as I go along. It doesn't really matter for the purpose of this demonstration, but again, I think it's important to show you exactly how this is working in the wider context of the Revit model. So let's draw some external walls there. I've placed a floor down, and then let's go ahead and draw some internal partitions of our building. So we're going to come in and draw a partition across there. We're going to draw a partition across there. And then we're going to have another couple inside as well. It doesn't really matter. Again, I'm kind of making this up as I go along to a certain degree, but you'll get the general idea. I'm just going to align these just so that it look a little bit nicer. As we're going to do a bit of a render on here in a second, we at least want something that looks half decent so that it looks nice towards the end. And then we're going to go ahead and place a door. I'm going to load a family from my UK content just so I've got something that that looks half decent. Let's go and find something that represents a pretty typical door here in the UK. And I'm going to place that at the front of my building just here. And then we're going to place some internal doors. So again, let's use the door tool and let's again load a family that is pretty typical of a commonly used internal door here in the UK. So something like that will be absolutely fine. Let's open that up. I'm not using this for anything other than this visualization example, so I'm literally going to come in and place a couple in there. Let's place one around about there. And then we're going to place one, oops, in the corner of this room as well, somewhere like that. Great. Let's place some windows down. Again, some of the generic windows will be absolutely fine for the purpose of this. This is literally just to give us some geometry to use in the model. Nothing overly complicated at all. So let's just place a few down. Maybe have a nice big set of windows here on the front. And a couple of nice large ones at the back here. One there, and a slightly smaller one to the side there. Lovely. Just going to make sure they're all the right way around. I think I drew one of them back to front, which I did. Great. Let's go on to a ceiling plan and just place down a few ceilings. Again, very inaccurate, but for the purpose of this, it's just for visualization purposes. So far we've got a really simple first floor layout that looks a little bit like this. We're going to draw a very simple single story house. Let's just say this is for the purpose of this. So let's go to our level 1 and place on a roof. We're going to overhang this by 300 mils or so. We want to define the slope on this side and this side, but we don't want to define the slope on these other ones here. Give that a tick, attach the walls to the roof, and we've got something that looks a little bit like this. It's a little bit high. Let's just go into that elevation here on the front and just change that to be something a little bit lower than 4 meters. Just for the purpose of this, let's just change it to 3 meters, like so. More than happy with that. That's lovely. And we've got something that represents a very simple bungalow or something of the like. So I've just got house geometry in there. I've got no furniture on the inside. It's just literally walls and windows. And actually, that's fine for the purpose of what I want to do. So I'm just going to save the model away. I'm going to put it on my desktop inside a little folder here called Twinmotion, just so that we can find it. And let's just call this our first Twinmotion visualization. So what we're going to do is once we've saved that model and I've got Twinmotion installed, we're going to go to the View tab, and we can see here that under Presentation, we've got a drop down that says Twinmotion. Now, what we can do is head over to a 3D view, and you'll notice that these options become active because we have to send the geometry from a 3D view across into Twinmotion. So I've got two options. I can either open it directly in Twinmotion, or I can do a manual export if I want to go and open this on another machine. In my case, I'm running it on the same machine that I have Twinmotion on. So I'm going to go ahead and say open in Twinmotion. Twinmotion is going to open in the background, and it's going to give me a few options. I can load the model into an existing project that I have in Twinmotion. I'm going to start a new one. And then we've got some options. So do we want to link objects by their material? Do you want to collapse all of them? And this is essentially going to allow us to sort of start to create some groupings if we want to. So in this model, I've got a lot of brickwork. If I choose collapse by material, all of those bricks will be linked. So if I change the material of one face, it's going to go ahead and change the material of all faces. Generally speaking for this, I'm going to use everything as complete default off the shelf, and I'm going to go ahead and press OK. I'm just going to pause the screen sharing just for a second and close my emails in the background. Stop that popping up again. There we go. And you can see that I'm inside of Twinmotion. So Twinmotion controls are slightly different to what you have inside of Revit. So I've got pan on my middle mouse, just like I have in Revit. Orbit is actually just click your left mouse button and then drag around to do that orbit. And what you can see straight away is actually we get a really nice look and feel right off the bat inside of Twinmotion. It looks pretty nice, and we've got something that's certainly very crisp. But it's using those Revit materials, so the bricks here are very similar to what we have in Revit, so on and so forth. If I just show you around the interface ever so slightly. My screen's at a bit of a funny resolution today, so I'm working directly off the laptop, and these new sort of 14-inch mobile workstations that we have, then they're not full 4K, if you know what I mean. They're kind of squashed, they're more square. So I'm going to show you a little bit at the top, and then I'm going to change my res just to get the bottom half of the screen in so that you can see it. So we've got some tools at the top to use a pipette to pick our material. We've got move gizmos, rotate gizmos, and scale gizmos. And we've also got the ability to go ahead and turn on ray tracing should we want to make things look a little bit nicer. I'm going to hide that for now, so I'm just going to drag up my screen just so I can show you the bottom of my screen. There we go. On the right-hand side over here, we have our scene graph. So this is showing us like the hierarchy of our model. And we get a default ground that Twinmotion puts in there for us, as well as a default landscape in the background. Okay. And we also get a starting base. So the pedestal here that it's kind of put the model on, it's gone through and looked at our model, and it's deciding that it wants to place that on like a pedestal, if you like. So it's raised up off the floor. Now you can see that I can turn any of those individual elements on and off just by hitting the little eyeball. I don't want that starting base, so I'm going to turn it off completely. But what I do want to do is make use of this landscape here. So I'm actually going to use this gizmo that we have in front of us. So with this starting landscape selected, I can sort of grab this move gizmo and basically move this thing around. You see at the background, that landscape's picking up. If we do the same with the starting ground, we can just move this ever so slightly. Now, I need to be careful. I don't want to bring that into my Revit model. So I don't want it to actually come into the point where it's interfering with my floor, but I do want it a little bit closer so it looks a little bit nicer. So I'm going to do something that looks a little bit like that, which is lovely. And then I can start adding to this. So I can select any object in the model, and you can see it highlights it here. Again, we're grouped based on material. So all of our bricks are grouped, all of our walls are grouped, so on and so forth. And I'm going to start by saying, okay, let's change the materials that the Revit model is using. Because whilst the materials look okay in here, I actually can do a better job using some of the Twinmotion materials. So if we get a bit closer to our wall here, and use the library over on the left-hand side, we can expand it just by clicking the library button down here if it's hiding. Go into materials, and you've got this library. You can create your own custom ones should you want to. I'm just using everything off the shelf. We're going to go across into the bricks. And you can see that we've got a load of bricks that we can preview. Just hover over any of these. It gives us a kind of preview of those types of bricks. And we can come in and choose a brick that we're happy with. So for this, I'm going to use maybe something like this clean brick 4 over here. And then you can basically drag and drop that material, or select an item and then click the material that you want to use. So I'm going to grab clean brick, and I'm going to drag it and drop it onto this wall. And the first thing you'll see is that the whole look and feel changes. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see that we've kind of got tiny little Lego blocks. But this is the power and the great thing about Twinmotion is it's so easy to make changes to this. So with that material now on, you can see it's been selected over here in my browser. And this clean brick here, I can scroll down and I have a load of options. One of those is the scale. So I can just use this slider to just either slide or type in a scale that I want those blocks to use. Now, without getting too much into the specific detail, a texture is essentially an image. So let's say you take a 250 by 250 pixel image, and it will just pattern that image over the model. Those images are usually what we call tileable or seamless, which means that when they tile, it will look like they're seemingly joined together. So you take the size of the image in pixels and then the size of the actual thing in real life, and you can figure out the scale that you need. For today, I'm just eyeballing it. But we can rotate these bricks should we really want to. And again, you can type that in there, or you can change that by eye should you need to. So I'm just going to scale them up to about 9. We can go into the specific details of that to change the offsets or stretch them in a specific direction should you want to. But again, for this, I'm really happy with that default look. Now, the benefit of this is we're using the Unreal game engine. So Twinmotion is an Unreal Engine tool. So everything that's so powerful about that gaming engine comes to life instantly inside of your eyes. Inside of your eyes? In front of your eyes. So little things like this texture has a roughness map. That's what makes the texture here look a little bit rough. It's not smooth. And it also has a bump map, which basically is controlling the highs and the lows, which is why the mortar joints there actually look like they indent, although that wall is flat. And if I move looking down it, you can see there's nothing there, but it's controlled with a bump map. So it makes it look like it has depth, which is fantastic. And we can control that. So I can make it look more flat, or I can make it look more rough. I can come into that roughness and choose what texture it uses for that, should I want to. We can come to the normal map and we can say that it looks more flat or more vertical, if you like. And again, we can control that just with those sliders. So we can come in and customize that texture really, really quickly using a whole raft of different options. I'm quite happy with that for the brickwork of this house, so I'm going to leave it as it is. But what we are going to do is just whiz around the model and just change some of the other options. So I'm going to come in and find maybe a plastic for the outside of this window here. I don't know if I've got anything that is kind of UPVC-like. I probably don't actually in this library. So I'm going to try and find something that just looks white. Let's just go back to materials and just search for white. And what comes up. We don't want a car paint. We don't want something that's too glossy. Have we got anything that doesn't have a texture on it? Maybe I will just use this car paint. And again, drag and drop or click the item first and then select it. So I place the glass, that white paint on there. And then let's also use a glass. I'm just going to use a clear glass for the purpose of this and drop it on the windows, but we've got two-sided glass. We've got frosted glass. We've got mirror-based glass. It's that easy to go in and start creating this look and feel and making it look and act the way that you want it to look. Let's go and have a look at this front door and place some glass on the door. Maybe I will put some patterned glass on here, maybe flower patterned glass on the door there. You can just about see that it has that look and feel. But again, we can scale that up and down if we want to make that look more or less detailed and textured as we see fit. Let's go and find a wooden material. Should have wood here somewhere. Wood, there we go. Find a wooden material and something for my door here. A nice composite door might be nice, but again, I'm just kind of making this up a little bit as I go along. I want something that doesn't look like wooden flooring. Mahogany door. Let's go and grab a mahogany wood on the door frame and the door itself. And again, you can just see that everything starts taking shape. It's looking nice. And to have the control over the size of the grain, so let's scale that grain up to about 5. We can, really come in here and have something that looks really nice and that we also have full control over, even the direction of the grain. So if I want the door grain to be going vertically, I just flip it by 90 degrees. The same thing on the frame. I can just flip by 90 degrees and change the scale. Things that would be otherwise difficult become very, very easy. Let's just have a little look at our roof here, which is pretty dull. We can go in and have a look specifically at roof coverings and maybe just go and find some slate tiles. Let's throw those on there. Let's put the scale up to probably something quite similar to, no, not 98, something quite similar to our bricks was about 9. And again, we can play around with our normal map and things like that. So we can start really getting something that, comes to life. It looks great. And that goes even further if we step inside our house. So I'm just going to use some keyboard commands. So I'm pressing W to walk forward, A and D to trace left and right, and then using my mouse. So I'm basically using what would ordinarily be gaming controls essentially on my PC here to control and work on this particular model. So let's place that mahogany on the door here as well. And then let's look at some of the internals. So let's come to internals, and then maybe we want to have some wall coverings. So let's go down to wall coverings somewhere here. There we go. And again, I've linked everything in here. I've been quite lazy, but I'm going to go with maybe a matte painted wall, and I'm going to drag that onto the ceiling. Okay, and then maybe we want to have a satin painted wall on my wall. And again, whatever I select, the material is listed over here on the right. So for my my satin painted wall here, I can come and grab this and play around with it until it's the color that I want to have. So should I want to have a Man and Machine orange painted wall, or should I want to have more of a sort of a blue tinge or a pink tinge or a red tinge, whatever color that you want, we can come in and we can start tweaking and customizing that color to suit. I'm going to try and get some sort of pastel-y green on here, which looks quite nice, like so. And again, you can control all the luminosity if something's self-luminous or something like that. Let's come in and work on some floor. So go back to materials. Let's go back to floor coverings. We should have around here somewhere ground. No, not ground. That's outside. Let's go back to, let's do a search, carpet. Make sure when you're searching, you are actually searching and not using keyboard shortcuts. Carpet. Let's search for carpet. And what have we got? A grey carpet. Let's throw a grey carpet down here. Probably have to change the scale again. I'll go roughly the same sort of scale as we've got on our bricks. And again, it's already looking pretty good. So because everything's linked, if I start looking through my model now in different rooms, you can see how all of these components, they've got the same material, which, you know, as you'd expect. And as well as adding materials in here, you can also add objects. So in this particular room here, I can come in and say that I want to add something from the home, from the living room. I want to add a sofa, and we've got some generic components in here as well. Again, you can add new, you can add your own ones. I'm just going to go and grab this corner sofa here, click it once, and I can click to place it in my model. Okay, you can see it links to the surface that you're facing over. So I can place this corner sofa, I can place this ottoman here, and then if we go back and grab maybe a wall-mounted TV, I can place a TV on my wall here. I can go back and grab some sort of table, maybe just a simple coffee table down here somewhere, and then on that coffee table we can put some stuff. So maybe I can have some building blocks here. I can place the building blocks down on the table. Try that again. I can place building blocks on the table. These assets look like they're downloadable and they're not downloading, which is a bit annoying. So, okay, let's grab an orchid and place the orchid on the table instead. And then let's also grab, why not entertainment, and why would we not put an arcade machine in your room? Why not? Oh, it's downloadable. That's frustrating. So these ones you have to download before you place them, and it's for some reason not downloading them. But you get the idea. We can place these components in, and then once they're placed, we can rotate them, we can move them, we can scale them around, and basically do whatever it is that we want to do with those components to place them in and around our model. But again, really quick. You know, this isn't taking me a long time to do. This is quick and easy. It's very much a designer's tool, and it's working in a very similar fashion to how you would work directly inside of Revit. It's making it really easy, and all you can see, the sun, the shadows, the lighting is all updating. Now, this comes a step further when we start thinking about things like toilets and showers and fireplaces and fire pits outside in the garden, because what I can do is also work on assets that have animations or information next to them. So if I come on here, and I don't think I actually have a fireplace, which is a little bit annoying. So let's, for the purpose of this, imagine that we have a fireplace inside of this apartment here, what we can do is we can basically place particle-based animation on here. And we have a load of particle-based animation that we can place and work on inside of our model. So we've got water, we've got shower, we've got smoke, we've got all sorts of stuff that we can work with. So if I place down a shower and I place it over this piece of furniture here, and I just zoom in, we can see just about, it's probably quite difficult to make out on the screen there, we can see that we've got a animated particle-based water shower there, which is really quite cool. So we've got all sorts of ability in here to work with stuff and place it very quickly. And again, the result that we get is great. Taking this a little step further is we can start to add context. So as well as adding really nice materials to our scene, we can then start to add context. So taking this floor outside, for example, I'm going to be quite lazy and just cover the whole thing in some grass and vegetation. But should you want to, I can come in here and I can start working on things like decals. So I could say, okay, show me some... Where are my decals gone? Show me some decals. Decal. No, not deval. Decal. Show me some decals. There we go. So I can place things like an air vent directly onto any surface on here. I can place things like patches. So if we wanted to show that there was a patch of asphalt, or even someone's been out here doing some artwork, for example, we can place little graffiti llama on our building and things like that. So we've got the ability to work with a lot of tools in here that actually start to bring this to life and start to give us a lot of context that we can add into our designs. So much so that I can say, okay, great, I want to start populating this area. I can do foliage, I can do paths for character and vehicle animation, and these are great. I can literally just click 2 points and Twinmotion will basically put me some animated characters onto that path, and I can choose the type of characters, how they're walking, if they're standing still, and I can do the same thing with vehicles as well. So really, really powerful. But for this, I'm going to use a foliage painter. So I'm going to say that I want to use some foliage. I'm going to go to the paint tool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off our Revit model. And I'm also going to try and just turn off all of these chairs and things as well. And then from here, maybe we'll turn it all back on, actually. From here, what we're going to do is say populate foliage, and then over here I'm going to start placing stuff. So let's go to grass and flowers, and then I'm going to have let's just say some long grass over here. I want to have some clover, and I want to have some wildflowers, or maybe some tall grass. So from there I can then say, okay, my long grass has a massive density, clover's quite low, tall grass about 25%, buttercups quite low. And I can change the size of each one of these. But once you build this up into how you want it, you then choose your paintbrush, choose a size, and just click and hold. If I just click and hold and just randomly go around the outside of my house, or even all over the house, let's just do an undo there. Just go around the outside of the house and populate foliage. Do that again, my apologies. So we want long grass, some clovers, some tall grass, and some buttercups. And I'm just going to paint that in here. You can see how ridiculously quickly Twinmotion comes in and paints foliage. I mean, yes, okay, so I've got some things in there that are a little bit over the top with regards to their density, but we can chop and change that, and we can customize how Twinmotion is going to work with that information. So I can very quickly start placing different foliage, lawn spaces, areas of foliage like this. I can also include things like trees in there. So I can say, okay, well, I also want to have the occasional Japanese cedar in there. Density's actually quite down and the age is quite young of that tree. But then when I start painting with that, it's then going to start including those trees as I paint around the model. We've also got the ability to then look at that in different times of year. So if I take this this tree, it might not be a great example, this one, so please bear with me. If I take this tree and say, okay, as well as that inside of Twinmotion, I want to start looking at the images that I'm creating from this system. So I'm going to go to Media, and I'm going to create an image. It creates a camera view. Then I can use that to basically say, show me what this looks like in the rain. And yes, you did just see a load of reflections and wet floor appear in front of the house, which is pretty clever. Not as clever as when you make it winter and that rain turns to snow. And you start to get snow covered in the trees, which is, again, quite incredible. Certain trees, but not all of them, will also lose their leaves as well through the winter. So if I can find an example, which I probably won't be able to now, we can basically choose in that image, okay, so make it sunny, but then you can't quite make it out on the screen. As you go through autumn, it will come in and everything will start dropping its leaves and stuff like that. But again, you get the general idea. We can really quickly start creating these quite remarkable images really, really quickly in our system, which is fantastic. Once you've got that, you can come to your Media tab. And we can create images. As well as images, we can create videos. So we just click to create a video, move our camera, press the plus, move our camera, press the plus, move our camera, press the plus. We then basically get a stop-go animation or a keyframe animation that this will then play back. We can create panoramas, we can create presentation walkthroughs, we can get doors to open, windows to open, so on and so forth. It really, really works quite well. Again, the short video is probably not quite enough to do it justice, but it comes with your collection. With a subscription to Revit, you get access to this tool. So I do implore you to, if you need to create visualizations, give it a download, get a model in there and have a go, because you can really create some quite stunning visualizations really, really quickly. I hope that's been useful. Thank you very much for watching, and we will catch you next time. Take care.